friends and companions along this path of spiritual practice. As these sacred moments of life pass us by, like Mother's Day, like birthdays and graduation celebrations, all of us are coming to realize that few things in life matter more than presence. Being present to our loved ones, being present as we hear from stories of loved ones, especially when they are suffering and going through difficulty. It's not an exaggeration to say that presence is a matter not just of flourishing, but even of survival. We know how important it is for infants and our children to be held in our presence. So it's no wonder that when presence is so vital to our day-to-day lives, that we will almost settle for any form of pseudo-presence that we'll take. Pseudo-presence that can mask and cover over the pain of absence. I think about pseudo-presence, one form of it being preoccupied presence. Preoccupied presence is the way in which we are cluttered and fragmented. Our presence and our awareness is scattered all over the place. The things that preoccupy you and me from day to day. But this preoccupied presence has become sort of the default norm in our culture, so we think that that's the norm and we accept it. And then occasionally we are with someone whose quality of presence is so complete and so present with us that we actually feel startled and even threatened by that quality of deep presence. Or I think about that other form of pseudo-presence, which is a confused presence. There is a misalignment or a discrepancy between the persona that we want to project to the world, the impression management, how we want others to see us. There's a discrepancy between our persona and the truth of our being. That is at the core of who we are. And when we are present with one another with that sort of confused presence, we can't help but to feel that something is obscured. But we'll take any one of these forms of pseudo-presence because of the pain of absence that we know all too well. This is no less true in our practice of meditation. This is why thoughts and thinking is so much more compelling than this practice of being aware. Thoughts come with an agenda. They seem so substantive. They give us things to remember from yesterday and things to plan and anticipate for tomorrow. We know how to grab hold of thoughts, and there are so many of them. As opposed to practicing awareness, that seems so insubstantial. It's so hard to grab hold of awareness as we grab hold of our thoughts. Awareness that is so subtle. And awareness, because it's an expression of our openness and vulnerability, awareness just leaves us exposed yet again to the very thing that we don't want to face, absence. But friends, as you and I continue to deepen in this practice of meditation, as we let go of thoughts and thinking and bring ourselves to be present with this thing called awareness, what we find is that awareness, this very expression of openness and vulnerability, turns out to be a thin place. Thin place through which we find a presence. Not just that kind of presence in the gaze between a parent and a child. Not just the kind of presence when we are listening to great music or whatever form of art, or a kind of presence that you and I know when we're in the midst of a great conversation with a friend. But this awareness leads us into this thin place where there is a quality of knowing and of presencing, where the 1,001 things meet us. A kind of presence that is not limited, but surrounds us. A kind of presence that is beyond personality and behind any particular form of behavior. A kind of presence that touches the core of our existential being itself. And so, friends, we learn to quiet our thoughts. We learn to let go of pseudo-presence. And we learn to practice being right here, completely present. So we continue with our practice.